He always thinks 3 in the morning.
So I want to start off with a quote by Eric Mack of Ford Magazines, and he states that for the past 8 years or so, we've been hearing the term colony collapse disorder to refer to the seemingly spontaneous abandonment of their hives by honeybees. Bees have been abandoning their hives for centuries, but the rate at which such collapses have been observed started to increase more drastically in the 1970s and have been reaching alarming proportions around 2006. So today, I want to talk about why we should save bees and what is actually causing them to decrease in such alarming numbers and how it will affect us and how it will affect our ecosystem and our environment and our agriculture. And first, I want to discuss the negative impacts it will have and then look at solutions and ways on how to protect bees. First, I want to talk about the negative impact the rapid decline of bees will have on our environment if they were to become extinct. I have another quote. One of the reasons why bees have been starting to decline rapidly in recent years is because of pesticides, most importantly the pesticide known as neonicotinoid. It's a very strong pesticide that is used on mostly a variety of plants that plants that we eat, like vegetables and fruits, and the chemicals used in these pesticides are very dangerous for the health of bees, and because bees are known as as nature's pollinators, in order for them to pollinate, they need to get close to the plants, and if they get close to these plants that have pesticides in them, then the chemicals will go into their bodies and affect their health. And Christoph Sandrock wrote the study Impact of Chronic Neonicotinoid Exposure on Honeybee Colony Performance and Queen Supersedure, and in it he states, ecosystem services provided by pollinating insects are vital for the maintenance of biodiversity and food security through agriculture productivity. Recent evidence for globally paralleling declines of various pollinators, however, stands in contrast to prospects of continuously increasing demands for pollination services. The western honeybee is a predominant managed pollinator worldwide. Although global stocks of domestic honeybees have increased during the last half-century, except in Europe and the USA, present and predicted agricultural demands for insect pollination far exceed currently available capacities. Repeated massive declines of managed honeybee colonies during the last decade in North America, Europe, and the Middle East raised substantial concerns about safeguarding future honeybee pollination services. Oh yeah, sorry, lost my place. The second thing I want to talk about is the actual numbers of declining bees. it usually it would be around 5 to 10% every year, but in recent years, starting in 2006 when the term colony collapse disorder started to or was invented, we saw that the losses approached 1/3 of all bees despite beekeepers' best efforts to ensure their health. And that is quoted from Michael Wines of the New York Times. Now that we have seen some of the many problems we would face if the bees were to become extinct, now I want to give you a few or two solutions to this problem. The first solution would be to start regulating the use of these pesticides known to cause harmful effects to bees, such as government regulations, which have already been placed mostly in European countries and in the US by the EPA. And and Christopher Handock, whom I previously quoted in his studies, found that significant detrimental short and long-term impacts on colony performance and queen fate suggest that neonicotinoids may contribute to colony weakening in a complex manner. The other thing we could also do in order to protect these bees is instead of calling an exterminator, we can also just call a beekeeper, which would be a lot more safer, not only for us, because when you call an exterminator, they pretty much use a bunch of chemicals and harmful things in order to get rid of these bees. And if you were to call a beekeeper instead, they would just go to your house and get their, I forget what it's called, their equipment, and just safely remove the bees and take them somewhere else where they can feed them and hopefully use them on farms for other people for agricultural purposes. And I actually have an example that Lisa Harrington gives of what beekeepers do to help pollinate crops. Farms hire beekeepers like Hackenberg. He loads his hives, kept in special boxes, onto trucks covered with nets. He transports them across the country to help pollinate blueberries, pumpkins, and other crops. But because of colony collapse disorder, he doesn't have as many of these tiny workers as he used to. And last year, about 1/3 of US honeybees died or disappeared. To try preventing more losses, Hackenberg feeds his honeybees special nutrients to help them fight off illnesses. Today I talked about the many harmful effects it would have on our environment if bees were to continue to decline in numbers, and also talk about some of the ways we can help protect these bees that we already have. And I hope that we can continue to save the bees that we have left. I saw her, that's why I started.
All right, Stephanie, let's hear from you.
Okay, so overall, I did like the speech because you sounded very confident in how you want to save the bees. But the cards on having them on the desk instead of holding them was kind of a problem because it hindered you from looking at us while you were talking, and instead just like looked down. So I think eye contact could have been just a little bit better. Your preview was good because you stated all three things you were going to talk about. And then, you did cite your quotes, but then when you said their name, I wasn't really sure who they were. So maybe just saying like they were like a professor at this or an expert in this. so that I could know more about them. The transitions between each of the previews, like each topic was really good, because you talked about what you just talked about, and then a little introduction into what was next. And the ending wrap-up was good because instead of just saying like, oh, that was it, you actually said a little bit about everything you talked about again, just to conclude what you talked about.
All right. I like the quote at the beginning as your attention step. You previewed the structure, but you didn't signpost it during the presentation. That's a little bit of a problem. Sometimes information seems like it's being randomly dropped in instead of building to a particular point or crescendo. The citation that Stephanie's mentioning, I think that there's a good point there. You spend so much time reading the title of the article that you don't really tell us who this person is, and that, I think, would matter more than the title of the article. The second reference that you made to the article in the solvency point is really the place where there's a link to the use of the pesticides. So that probably should have been earlier in the speech. And then the quote that you used originally on that might have made more sense in your solution section. Delivery issues, when you watch it back, you're going to see you're pacing all over the place. You keep having to go back over to look at your notes. A lot of staring at the ceiling. A couple of dead spots, which, by the way, I know you're getting a lot of right now. Sorry about that. All right.
Water?